Kelly, thank you. It usually doesn't get a lot of attention and there isn't much fanfare. But this year, of course, the Electoral College vote is a bit different. Oakland University political science professor and director of the Center for Civic Engagement, David Dulio, is joining us live this morning via Skype. And Professor, it's always nice to see you. So let's talk about this. And Amy just said it at the start. This is something that normally most Americans kind of get on with their day and haven't even noticed it happened.
That's right. It's one of those points in the process that is often overlooked, but is actually, I would argue, the most important step in the process. What's going to happen today in Lansing and in state capitals across the country are the votes that formally and legally will elect the President of the United States. These are the votes that count.
David, who are these electors? How are they chosen? And do they have to vote for the candidate who won their state here in Michigan?
Yeah, great question, especially in a process that is likely to see some protest, which frankly is nothing new. But the electors are handpicked by the political parties. In fact, each party, whether it's Democrat, Republican, Green, Libertarian, what have you, selects their own slate of electors. Democrats and Republicans picked theirs at their state conventions over the summer, and those are what are technically on the ballot on Election Day for us. When we go into the voting booth or cast an absentee ballot, we're not voting for Joe Biden or Donald Trump. We're voting for one of these slates of electors who will then take action today as members of the Electoral College. So because they're handpicked by the parties, they are party activists, party leaders, party bigwigs. And so that is one sort of insurance policy against any drama, if you will. Yeah. But there's also a state law in Michigan that says electors must vote for the candidate that they're supposed to.
So is there a state law that's different in other states? And I ask because in 2016 there were two electors that voted for Hillary Clinton when she didn't win that election. So is there anything, especially after many of these lawsuits have failed, is there anything on the president's side that he's looking at today?
Not really. I think that there may be a faithless elector or two out there, but there are state laws across the country in some states, not in others, but in some states, these requirements to vote for the winner of the so-called statewide popular vote are in place and require people, bind people to voting for that individual. In others, electors are free to choose whomever they like. And that's one place we may see a faithless elector or two, but I think these days probably not.
David, what happens next? Is this the end-all, be-all after all of the challenges and things like this? Does this just decide it and then we move on? Or is there any maybe surprises that could pop up?
Right. Well, I think you're likely to see some drama at the beginning of January. These votes will be cast today in Lansing and, as I said, in capitals across the country. They will be transmitted to the Congress. 6 separate copies, if you will, of these votes will be sent to Washington, D.C. On January 6th. The Congress will meet in a joint session where the Vice President, Mike Pence, will count the votes in his capacity as President of the Senate. But at that time, members of Congress can challenge these votes. And a member of the U.S. House of Representatives on the Republican side has vowed to challenge election results. If that happens, and I expect it probably will, he needs to have support from the other chamber. So a House member and a senator would have to agree that there needs to be the challenge looked at. At that point, both chambers would sort of go into their own meeting of their members, and they would vote. So, and before anything can not be counted, both chambers would have to have a majority to not count those votes. And of course, with Democrats having a majority in the House of Representatives, that challenge will go nowhere. Right. But we'll likely see some drama anyway.
Wow, good information to have, Dave.
My pleasure, Jay.
It's good to talk to you this morning, and we will be right back with much more on Fox News Morning.